call is just, again, do a little more of a brief overview. I know I sent everybody a package, but I want to spend time just kind of talking through a few more of the pieces in detail. We'll take a look at the product and see more about, what's under the covers. And then there'll be an opportunity for Q&A in the process. And then at the very end, just talk about next steps if you guys are interested in further engagement. So the reason that frogdata was created was to resolve this problem today, which is every dealer has all these different systems within their, call it the dealer reporting ecosystem. And every single one of them is throwing off reports that they have to ingest on a daily basis. One of the things we say is that, people don't always trust the data, right? The data that comes in from one of these tools, because it doesn't always tie back to another one of the databases, doesn't always match up. It's not as trustworthy. There's definitely no linkages between the databases. Everybody creates manual spreadsheets when they don't have multiple databases being able to link to the others. So that's a common problem in the business. And really the reporting that most dealerships, intake today, they don't drive decision making. So what frogdata has done is we've taken every single one of these databases and we've created an ingestion point, big word, but we've created the ability to sync all those databases into our platform. So all these databases are moving into our common platform, and we connect them, basically, with either an API or through an FTP process, so that it's all done systematically and seamlessly on a daily basis. The structure of our tool allows for dealers to append to their data as well. Simple example, a lot of dealerships don't have male and female or gender inside of their database. We have a lookup table that quickly assesses gender based on name, and it appends that information to the file. We also believe, and I think you'll see, that the type of reports that we've created allow for faster and better business decisions to be made with our product. And lastly, our tool is actually a data vault, so that we retain the dealership's data and update it on a daily basis. So I could go back and recreate what existed on a very specific date for whatever purposes I needed to, or you needed to, quite frankly, because we do allow the user access to the data as well. We use Amazon Web Services as our data vault, but it is storing every single day's worth of data on the tool and recallable, if you will. So what we like to say is that our value proposition is we have one platform that connects all the databases, as I said. We create very unique insights and analytics by leveraging that data. It's on-demand, up-to-date reporting, and it gives a complete operational view of the business, which it also incorporates forecasting capabilities built into the tool as well. So it's a very robust product. One of the things that we talk about it, but it really is kind of underplayed, is we help dealers visualize their performance, and we do use tools known as visualization. And the reason why that's so important is how our brain actually interprets information from an image versus static data, right? And the whole idea is imagery actually creates this sense in your brain that you want to perform, because that's how you see it. You're visualizing the data and the result. It also helps to identify behavioral trends, because we can take the data and arrange it in such a fashion where you can see what is happening from a behavioral standpoint inside of your organization and with your customers as well. We do believe that our product helps to promote data integrity, and I'll show you a couple ways where we actually have all these exception reports that allows dealers to reconcile data differences that might exist, say, between their CRM and their DMS data. One of the things that we really work hard on is trying to drive more horsepower from what we say is all the dealers' existing invested tools. Those of you on the call that are focused on the service drive, the perfect example is our integration to measurement tools like Hunter, Quick Check system, and the TreadSpec rollover system. And I'm going to actually show you a little bit about that, so I'll defer that to the later conversation. But we do the same thing with the vAuto data that we get, or the inventory management through appraisal insights, and even simple things like reconditioning, where I think other dealers, and I actually, not to digress, but I ran a dealership group for 15 years. I used to use a third-party product to help running our reconditioning process. That data is available in DMS. There's just not good reporting to be able to highlight that, but that's what we do. And then even if people aren't consuming our data on a regular basis, we actually proactively, and this is where we feel that there's opportunities for consultants with our product, is that we've created this thing called frog action reports, which is highlighting things that may not even be obvious to everybody on how they should interpret and perform or take action with the data. And this happens to be just a simple example. In the front end, all the different lead sources that you're getting for internet leads, they all close at different median times, right? Or they close at different time frames. And so we evaluate the median time to close, and the recommendation is go into your CRM product and change your follow-up rules. In other words, don't follow up with a KBB lead the same way you would follow up with a Car Guru's lead, because one of them takes 5 days on average to close, the other one takes 25 days. So it's giving them, tools and ideas and process ideas on how to improve their closing rates through the use of looking at the data on a much different and deeper level than they're looking at it today. I know you guys probably saw this in what I sent out, but nobody really very few people have heard of frogdata, but a lot of people have heard of ISMO Cars. We are a division of ISMO Cars, which has been around the market for about 17 years now. We're in 7 different countries, largely as a digital marketing, interactive media solutions provider. We deal with a lot of tier 1 clients. The bottom line is we're a fairly large organization with an experienced management team. We're not a startup company. We have a new product called frogdata. It was developed roughly a couple of years ago. It's taken us 2.5 years to build the platform to be available. We've got a large team of data scientists, and we utilize pretty much the latest technology core, which is Mongo as our database, Python, which is our programming language, and then tools like SAS, which help to provide a lot of the analytics that you're going to see in the product. These are our existing integration partners, although we, with any DMS or any CRM that would be new to us, we can ingest, we also have Reynolds customers on our system. We just can't list them as an integration partner because currently we're not paying them their certification fees, but we do get access. We've figured out, how to do that, and quite frankly, it's not that difficult. It's just a little tedious when you set up the first client that you have with all these different systems. Okay, so I'm going to skip out of this and jump into the tool itself. Again, hopefully you can all see. I'm going to assume that you guys are seeing what I'm showing. If not, please jump in and let me know. So as I said initially, and I know a few people joined afterwards, the majority of the people who are interested in this product from a consulting group were fixed ops oriented. So I'm going to kind of tailor my presentation to how we believe a fixed operations service manager, service director would utilize our tool. So the first thing you see about our tool is that it's highly visual. Remember, I said that early on, and again, I think it's on a simple chart like this, it's not as obvious, but it is when you start looking at some more complicated analytics on why visualization is so important. So on the home page, we've really just kind of given an idea that you want to look at some basic components. So on the left-hand side, you see total gross profit on the y-axis, and the last 6 months on the x-axis. If you want to know information about what's going on with that particular line item, you just hover over that particular data point, and it'll pop up what we call a tooltip to give you the relevant statistics associated with that line. You notice the red box around September, even though when you look at this, you see there's only $7,900 in gross profit on used cars booked. We're actually forecasting out what the month is going to be based on some pretty sophisticated formulas that we've developed and tested out with a bunch of our dealer clients. But it's not just important to be able to look at what it's going on currently, but maybe let's take a look at how does my performance compare to a year ago, right? Because actually when I was looking at this, I'm like, man, we're doing pretty good. No, we're not. And again, dealers know this, but it's important to kind of see some of this information so that you can correlate, right? And you can take an action if appropriate. So again, click on, click off functionality, bring in all the different dynamics. We again think it's important to see, things like average gross profit on new, average gross profit on used, and then also average gross profit on a parts and service ticket as well, just so that you can get a sense of whether you're accomplishing what you intended to accomplish. The tool is fairly large. There's over 800 reports in the tool, so we created a section for favorites. Not a section, but functionality for favorites. So if I don't want to constantly be having to go find the actual report that I want to look at, I can just drive it to my home page as a favorite, and then from here I can just click and go there immediately without having to go through the menu tree, if you will. One of the other functionalities that we are in the process of adding is automated email reporting, so that you can either schedule a report, or you can schedule the report, or you can even heck, I forgot about, there was a couple things I just talked about it with my chief technician. The bottom line is we can push the reports electronically based on what the individual user wants. The other thing about the home page is we do what we push signals to the dashboard. And what a signal is it's basically your data's way of telling you that something needs your attention. And so it could be as simple as, keeping out in front of you that there's inventory that's older than 90 days old. If I want to go look at that, I just go click on the hyperlink. Or it can tell you what opportunities you have to improve your profit if you were to increase, say, finance penetration. And again, we're not making these numbers up. This data comes from the 75th percentile. So we're looking at their historical performance to tell them how they could improve and how much they could improve if only they reach that, higher 75th percentile. But again, there's some more sophisticated algorithms going on in here with these signals. I'm not going to click in any of them right now, but the idea is the data is helping to identify what the dealer should be taking action on, okay? Okay, so as I said, I was going to try to kind of show this as how we believe like a service manager would utilize this tool on a daily basis. What I've done just to make the demo go easier is I've opened up tabs for each one of the areas that I want to step you guys through. But in the case of fixed ops, it would basically largely be underneath this fixed ops tab, where you have all these different reports that are available for you to look at. So the first thing I think, what a service manager would want to know is, how am I trending for the month, right? What does my current activity look like, and how does that compare to last month, and how does that compare to a year ago? So you can quickly see exactly on a daily basis, here's how many actual hours I've booked on a cumulative basis. And again, how is that comparing to my performance from last month, which, this is a bit of a demo system, so it's not always really, solid data. And then how does that compare to my performance a year ago? So again, quickly visualizing whether or not I'm going to hit. And the system is actually saying that I'm probably going to hit around 2,211 hours for the month, right? So am I on track? Am I off track? That's on an hours perspective. Here's repair orders. But more importantly, tell me, what are my advisors doing on an average daily basis right now, and how did that compare to last month, and how did that compare to last year? So I can sort these columns however way I want. So if I want to look at, the people that are performing, I can see, Aaron's got 7.2 hours. Last month he did 14. Again, the data is not always perfect with this demo system, but you get the sense, right? So I can quickly see if I've got a problem with somebody who's off their normal performance levels, and I can take corrective action. Same thing with my average hours by technician. I can evaluate that just as quickly, see who's on track, who's not, and again, take appropriate actions where I need to. The system is also giving you your both, we kind of went through the labor performance, but it's also telling you where you're going to end up the month from a gross profit standpoint. So you can see that my actual, even though it's only 7,400, I'm on pace to do 138,000, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you can quickly visualize how am I performing, and am I going to meet my objective for the month. One of the things we think service managers may also want to look at is what's going on with the actual workload in my shop. And so, the first thing I may want to look at is how many ROs am I adding on a daily basis, and how many am I closing? And obviously, you can see we're seeing a little bit of a lull with, and again, demo system, probably some of the data. But more importantly, how many open ROs do I have that haven't closed out? So you can quickly see, if I just want to get rid of the rest of these, I've still got open ROs from these many days ago. This is the last 60 days. So I'm showing them where their attention needs to be placed, and getting, kind of eliminating the clutter. Could they get this off of a DMS report? Sure. But it gives them the insights that they need to take action, and take action now. And so again, I can also layer in just the ROs that are carried forward, so I can get a good sense of what's happening with my shop and what's the limiting factors for me to continue to drive more service through the service drive or through the shop. And just some additional stats in terms of volume trends, and then open ROs by payment type, et cetera. Okay, so maybe one of the other things I want to take a look at is how are my guys, what's the discounting, and what's the we call it exception report information. How is the team managing things that let's call them transactional policies, right? So I quickly give you the ability to take a look at any ROs that were sold with zero labor, where cost was greater than sale. Where my shop charges on any RO of $50 or more, no one charged shop charges. Loaner vehicles that I've got where the gross profit didn't at least generate $100. And again, we can kind of customize these for whatever a dealership may want to focus their attention on. The whole idea is obviously tightening up the control on policy abuses, and really just keeping discounts in line with expectations. I'm going to, after I get through a couple other ones, I'm going to flip over and show you the integration with the Hunter system, but it's not in this demo system. It's in a different login, so I'm going to skip that for the time being. Used cars. One of the things that I think everybody, wants to know is what's going on with my reconditioning time with used cars. And so, again, we quickly give you the ability to see exactly what your average days to recon are every single day on a daily basis. So if I hover over this kind of purplish line, it's telling me that my 31-day average for reconditioning is 11.3 days. I can see that compared to the 90th percentile, which is just basically, again, saying, this is your worst case scenario. You've got 10% of your cars taking longer than 25 days. But more importantly is help me to see what's going on with the vehicles that are taking long. And it's hard for me to say this because I don't know this dealership, but one of our sayings is we show and here just happens to be a vehicle that took 57 days to recon. If it's a body shop vehicle and they were waiting for a part, okay, but maybe it's something that they know, there was a barrier that kept us from moving faster on this vehicle. We had one dealership implement our tool, and they've taken their average recon days from about 12 down to 6.5 or 7 days. Again, just putting the data in a format where it makes sense and it visually tells them what what their challenges are and how they need to accomplish it. We even track receipt to recondition so that you can see, in this case, this example is a receipt to recon is actually in the 26-day range, and the recon is 10. So they've got a 16-day problem from when the asset is either traded in or purchased until they actually are getting it into the recon shop. So again, quickly and easily identifying where they can improve the recon and get those cars turned and frontline ready as possible. I'm gonna kind of flip into a little more of, I guess I would call it the intermediate type of functionality of the product, where I'm going to start looking at monthly labor planning, so I can take a look at what my activity's been like, plotting a whole bunch of different things, but at the end of it coming down to here's my current plan for the month. I can either set it based on a total shop hours, or I can actually set it on an individual service technician level basis in the tool. And then I can go in and do future months on a more, higher level planning. And then, this obviously allows me to account for vacation or people being gone, just so that I can plan my shop and my resources accordingly. Okay, next area I want to show you is, okay, so the question is, in essence, hold on a second. How do I improve sales results in the drive currently? And so, I think the first thing, everybody's got to look at is what's happening with my RO trends, both from a customer pay, from a what really is the benchmarks that I need to strive for in terms of helping to drive the organization and moving them forward. So I think at a higher level, a service manager would want to take a look at what's happening with ROs, gross profits, what's my average gross, not only on an overall basis, but how is that impacted from a individual customer pay, warranty, et cetera. So I can start looking, closer at my higher level performances to determine where I want to start kind of moving the organization. And then if, we want to get more specific on where the opportunities are to improve, hold on a second, I clicked the wrong one. All right. Somehow I missed it on the link. I'm going to flip into an area that we call service advisor comparison, and really just start to look at, I know I closed that window before, here's all my, reporting that in some systems is just not that easy to pull together. Advisor performance for the last 6 months. I've broken out customer warranty separate, warranty internal, sublet. And then again, I have the ability to take any of this data and see, who's performing, who's not, just by sorting the column, and it'll resort the data inside of this tool. So if I want to focus on effective labor rates, I can do that. Hours per RO, I can take a look at that. So again, I'm looking at all the different metrics that drive performance in the service department to try to come up with, what do I need to do in order to improve my daily service advisor activities. And again, I've got a whole bunch of reports in here. I'm not going to go through all of them with you, but suffice to say, you can see that there's a lot of data in here, and sometimes, we don't want to overwhelm our customers, but we can do that. Okay, moving into another area, maybe what I want to do is take a look at, what type of vehicles am I servicing? And more importantly, what does a business customer look like, and what does an individual customer look like? Which to me is kind of strange because, the concept's not strange, but anytime I would see a business performance that was less than an individual RO performance, I would say, somebody's not doing their job focused on, either a separate menu for a business customer, but obviously driving, recognizing that every business person who drives a vehicle doesn't want their vehicle to break down, and more often than not, they should probably be buying additional services. But I can also quickly identify what is my bigger categories just from a marketing standpoint. So, if I really want to focus on the things that drive my business, I'm going to focus on the Ram 1500 because it represents both a large business and a customer revenue on a monthly basis, and so on. I can look at the same thing for Dodge Caravan, Jeep Grand Cherokee. And again, I think a lot of times people know this, but when they see the data that supports it, it helps them to make quicker and better decisions about, where to spend their marketing efforts or what they should be focused on to try to increase the overall performance. Okay. Sorry, I'm just kind of looking at a little cheat sheet here. Okay, so the last thing I guess I want to show you then would be showing you the inspection tool or the connectivity to the Hunter inspection system. So if you bear with me for a minute, I just want to close out some of these windows and open up a different login. Okay, so we're going to go to an area called inspection analysis. And this is where we are ingesting the data from the Hunter system, and we are then comparing that to the data from the DMS system and identifying, key components or key metrics that we can utilize to help drive improved performance. So the first thing I'm going to see is how often is the machine being utilized. So I can quickly look and see exactly how many tests were done on a monthly basis, and I can see what that trend looks like to tell me whether my usage is consistent or if it's going down. I can then see the last 30 days how the machine was being utilized. But more importantly, I then just get into the actual details of what happened on a daily basis. So on yesterday, this dealership had 61 ROs that came into the service drive. 28 of those vehicles, tires were tested. 28 vehicles were tested for alignments. Okay. On the same day, we had 18 of those alignments as opportunities. In other words, the machine said that these people were recommended an alignment, and 6 vehicles had tire opportunities as well. Then we look at how many customers purchased, and we can see that no one purchased an alignment, and roughly 2 tires. Somebody purchased 2 tires. So you can quickly identify, what is my performance for each one of my advisors, both on testing, utilizing the system, how many opportunities were created, what their closing rates are, and then if we want to get into it, we can take a look at, in other words, what is the potential opportunity, how much could they be generating if they all improve their individual performance. So again, tying all this data from the Hunter system back to the DMS, and this is this is the VIN number coming across Hunter that we then find in the DMS, and we make all the corresponding reports associated with it. And then, kind of last but not least, we then take all the decline services for each customer. We append email address, phone numbers, all the data that we need from the DMS, and then we obviously attach, what was it that actually declined in the process, and give you the ability to just grab this on an Excel spreadsheet, which you can then turn around and send off to a marketing company or your in-house, BDC or whatever for follow-up on the specific item that failed in the inspection test process. So it's really all about collecting that data, tying it back to the activities that are going on in the dealership in order to help, in this case, drive more tire and alignment sales. Okay, so sometimes it's a lot. I can't tell what the interest level is or what the engagement is. So I'm going to stop for a minute here and ask you guys if anybody has any questions about the tool or what they saw. Feel free to ask, and I'll try to answer some questions. No. Okay. No problem. Um, okay. So let me go back. I guess, where we really see this as an opportunity is, there's a ton of data, there's a ton of reporting that both you guys probably deal with and your clients deal with on a daily basis, and we just believe that a product like this can help make everybody's lives easier, both from a standpoint of just giving better insights into how to make decisions or take decisions, and then also even from lifting a burden of putting a lot of these reports together on their own, because it is time consuming. It's very time consuming. So that being the case, let me just kind of bring back to, I guess, what next steps are. If you guys were interested and have an interest in continuing to, get involved with this product, I would ask you to take a look at the referral agreement that I sent over. The idea behind this is we get a lot of people who are interested, but then I've spent a lot of time in the past taking people through this same process, and the interest kind of can be keen at some point, and then business gets in the way, and interest just isn't there. So our thought process is to do something simple like this referral agreement. That way, if you identify clients that have an interest, all you need to do is contact me. I can set up a remote demo, take roughly 45 minutes. I'd obviously ask you guys to actively participate in that initial process so that you can, see what the customer's reaction is, see if the tool is actually addressing the business needs that you thought it would address. If we're successful and we get the clients to sign, obviously we would involve you also to the extent that you want to be involved in, the training process and getting the client to start utilizing the tool. Our feeling is you'll better understand how the clients utilize the product. And again, I think we'll also see how you will be able to leverage the tool and the data to enhance your own services to your client. And then I think if in that process things go well, you guys see that you have an interest and are even willing to kind of become more involved, we would engage somebody in a reseller agreement, which again, as I sent the original package, would give you an idea of a significant more amount of compensation associated with you, not only cultivating the client, but also managing some of that process on a more, intimate level, as opposed to us doing, 100% of the engagement. So that's kind of the reason that we wanted to take it in that direction and make sure that, we didn't waste each other's time if this wasn't something that was of value to you guys, et cetera. Last thing, I don't think I included this in the last time, but the pricing of the product is on a single point. It's a $1,500 one-time charge, and then it's $1,500 a month. If somebody puts a gun to our head, would we, discount it a little bit? Sure, it's the car business. 2 to 10 rooftops, there's the pricing for 2 to 10, and then 11 plus. We've had a few organizations. We got one organization with 13 rooftops. Obviously, when we get into those larger deals,